Hello everybody and welcome to the 2016 Varsity Football Preview Show. I'm Jason Burt, and joining me in studio is my broadcast partner, Brad Fetters. Brad, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
Let's start things off by talking about the realignments in the top two leagues. Obviously, every year the MHSAA realigns teams based on their wins, losses, and their enrollments, things of that nature. They've changed things up a little bit, so let's look at it. The MAC Red has a lot of the same teams that you see every year: Dakota, Chippewa Valley, Eisenhower, Stevenson. But the big change this year is ROMEO comes up to the Red from the White to join Warren Mott, who will remain there for their third season. Let's take a look at the White. L'Anse Creuse North is the team that comes down from the Red. They now are in the White, along with Utica, Anchor Bay, Grosse Pointe South, FRASER, and Utica Ford. So those are your new two top leagues this year. And of course, ROMEO is the big change. They won a state title last year, and they jump up to the Red. That just makes that division much tougher.
ROMEO back in the MAC Red for the first time since 2013, and really they earned that battlefield promotion. Not only do they win the state title last year, but they went 9-1 over the last two seasons in the MAC White. And when you look back at that title run, they beat teams like Clarkston, an undefeated Lapeer, a Detroit Catholic Central, an undefeated Grand Ledge, and perennial power Cass Tech in the state title game. ROMEO did everything well last season, and they had an outstanding defense that really got the job done. Obviously, they lose some key playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Making that move up in the MAC Red, every single game is going to be tough, and it'll be interesting to see how ROMEO fits into the mix.
Yeah, and as for L'Anse Creuse North dropping down to the MAC White, I think that's a good move for them. They finished 4-5 last season, and when you have to go up against those teams like Dakota, Chippewa Valley, Eisenhower, it is a grind. And ROMEO, once again, moving up, is going to learn that again. It's a grind each and every week, and sometimes you can play a good football game and still fall to one of those teams. Sure. L'Anse Creuse North, I think, is going to benefit by dropping down to the White because it's going to give them the opportunity to play more winnable games, I guess, on paper to possibly get them to that 6-win total.
Well, they made that huge jump, right? They go from the MAC Blue all the way up to the MAC Red, and they got thrown into the fire and really struggled in MAC Red play, only winning one league game in their 2 seasons. They're much more winnable games in the MAC White now, and an opportunity for them to make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs since 2013, so a little bit more of a comfortable mix, and what should be a really good MAC White as well.
Yeah, the top 2 leagues are going to be really tough, and that MAC Red is going to be a brutal schedule for everybody. So, well, we'll start off with our first team in this preview with the defending MAC Red champions, the Dakota Cougars. With 4 straight MAC Red titles and counting, they are primed to make another run at it. New head coach Greg Bauer takes over for Mike Giannone at the helm and is looking forward for the challenge.
Go! Get there!
Beyond excited. It's been a seamless transition. Kids have been awesome. This is the best summer we've ever had as far as turnout and conditioning. I think it's natural when you have a coaching change. There's some excitement there, but our kids have just been phenomenal, and I'm beyond excited.
Coach G brought us up. We're just working off that. Coach Bauer is a good coach for us. I think he's a really good fit. We're just basing it off that. We're just going to take it day by day.
Our coaching staff is almost exactly what it was. We have a couple of additions, and both the additions I've coached with prior, so there's no unfamiliarity there. And the kids know us, and I know the kids, so that's a huge thing. It's like I said, it's been a seamless transition. I've been here for 11 years. It's not like anything's really new to me. The only thing new is all this paperwork that I suddenly have. But everything else is pretty normal, and the kids are treating it that way, and it's been a great start so far.
Go!
This year's team's very, very hardworking. We're working our butts off out here. We're all dedicated, and we all have great chemistry, and great chemistry just leads out here, us having fun. And us having fun is, I think, a big key, because if you're having fun, then we want to keep doing things, and we keep getting better and progressing.
Our running back, Kaiser Carlton, he's a 3-year starter for us. Our offense kind of goes around him. And then our quarterback, Brett Drosky, he's had an unbelievable summer, working his tail off. The mental part of the game is really coming to him now. He just looks like a whole new quarterback. He's going to have a great year. And then our skill guys, we have every skill guy back. Jalen Hall has looked phenomenal this summer. Evan Civic, AJ Caldwell, and then Ronye Walker. Also Dmitry Donikoff, our tight end, and then we returned 2 linemen too. And then the linemen that didn't return, we have some really talented young players to fill those spots. So offensively, we should be pretty good. And defensively, we returned 6. I love those 6 guys, and the guys that are stepping in to replace the guys that left, I really like too. So right now, I'm really, really happy with where we are. I love the way we're working. It always comes down to who stays the healthiest. But if we're healthy, you know, I think we have a very, very good team.
It all starts with our first game, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Very, very good team. We're ready for anyone. You know, it doesn't matter who it is. We're all going to come out here and compete and play to the best of our abilities.
They have a great tradition. You know, they're state champions back-to-back. This will be the third year in a row we've opened up with a defending state champion, so it's not new to us. And it's kind of good in the way when you open up with a team like that, it gets the kids' attention all summer long. You know, there's no slacking off because we know what's ahead of us. But we'll, you know, we look at it as a challenge. We'll be ready. You know, they're coming here. They're a good team. We're a good team, so it should be a great football game. We open with a state champion, and then we play a state champion in our league. So the MAC Red is if not the toughest division in the state, one of the top 2 or 3. And now with ROMEO being in, ROMEO is just an unbelievable program that just adds to it. You know, there are no easy weeks in the MAC Red. There never have been, but now especially with ROMEO in there. You know, we play Ford in our non-league, and Ford's really improved. You know, it's a meat grinder, you know, and again, it's whoever stays the healthiest, whoever can, you know, stay on point. But, you know, I like our chances with anybody. It's just a matter of, you know, can we focus week to week and do what we need to do.
Set, go.
In your opinion, what are the strengths of this year's team that you could see?
I would say our skill positions for sure, and then our experience, because a lot of our guys are back, and overall team speed. I would think those 3, you know, skill positions, speed, and experience. You know, I think the experience one is probably bigger than all of them, because we have guys that have been through it a little bit, you know, been to a regional final against Cass Tech, and been in close games. So it's not new to them, and now they get, you know, they can take that next step. But we take it day by day. We try to, it sounds like a Jim Harbaugh cliche, but we want to be better today than we were yesterday. We want to be better the second session today than we were the first session. Take it in little small bits, and as those add up, we're going to get better as a team. We don't want to look too far ahead. We really don't even want to look to St. Mary's yet. We just want to work on us right now. And then when you get into the season, the way our schedule is, it's got to be game by game, week by week, and continue to improve. And if we take care of us and continue to improve, the sky's the limit for this team.
All right, Brad, Dakota obviously is going to be the favorite. A lot of the coaches have mentioned that. They have a lot of those players returning. They've won 4 straight MAC Red titles, so obviously they're going to be the favorite again.
Yeah, tradition never graduates, and that's especially true with Dakota. 16 straight seasons they're looking to make the playoffs. A new head coach. It's not much of a transition. He's been with the program for 26 years, 11 years as an assistant coach or JV coach. And it's Coach Bauer, who's coached under 4 Hall of Fame head coaches, a guy that gets the system and won't be that hard of a transition.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, the coaching change, and I call it the coaching carousels a little bit in the MAC Red. Bauer brings on Mike Carr, who used to be over at Chippewa Valley for several years, won a state championship back in 2001. So he's got a little bit of knowledge that he's bringing over there to Dakota, so they don't really lose anything from the coaching aspect. But when you look at their team, you know, last couple seasons we've called several games for Dakota. Kaiser Carlton, that running back position, one of the best high school players in the MAC, maybe even the state of Michigan. Yeah, I mean he's a beast back there in the backfield. And Bauer said it himself, they're going to run their offense through him. Yeah,
and this is a team that scored 30 or more points in 8 games last season, really leading the charge. Kaiser Carlton, an Eastern Michigan commit, 19 touchdowns, over 1,300 yards rushing, and he had 6 games over 100 yards. And don't forget, he also was injured late in the season last year, only appeared in 10 games. If they can keep him healthy, they're going to be outstanding once again. They also have a senior quarterback in Brett Drosky, who can really light it up and throw the ball deep to Jalen Hall.
Yeah, you heard in the package, obviously, Coach Bauer indicating that the offense should be pretty good. They're only replacing a few guys on the offensive line, but most of those guys come back and they've got the skill guys on the outside, so they should be pretty good. All right, let's take a look at their schedule real quick. August 25th, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. It's a game they all talked about there. You heard some of the players, and obviously Coach Bauer mentioned it. Start off with a state champion. Following that up, a home game against Eisenhower on September 1st, and then it's 2 road games against Lance Creuse and Warren Mott. Home on the 23rd against Stevenson. On the road on September 30th against Utica Ford, which is a crossover game. The 7th of October, that's the big rivalry game on the road at Chippewa Valley. And then they close out their final 2 against ROMEO at home, and then Lance Creuse North, another crossover on the 21st of October. And Brad, when you look at this schedule, you know, he mentioned it. You start off with a state champion, but now you got a state champion in your league in ROMEO. Sure. on top of your teams like Eisenhower and Stevenson and Warren Mott, I mean, it's just every week is going to be a grind.
Well, I think the coolest thing, too, is Dakota has never shied away from playing the toughest competition. Third straight year they open up against a state title holder, Orchard Lake St. Mary's, who won the Division III state title last year. Obviously, you mentioned Romeo in the mix and late on in the season. Don't forget that Warren Mott game. Dakota, that was their lone league loss last year on the road at Mott. They have to go to Warren once again to play Mott. That's a tough game always for Dakota.
Yeah, and of course, L'Anse Creuse North, the team that we'll hear a little bit about later on, is now a crossover game. Used to be a league game, so that's still going to be a tough one for them at the end of the year. But, you know, from top to bottom, you know, Stevenson, Eisenhower, Chippewa Valley, those each and every week, those games, you know, just mean so much. And if Dakota can run the table and have another successful year, maybe go 8-1, you know, 7-2, that's probably going to get it done.
Well, if you look too at their schedule, some of their more important games on that schedule are at home. Eisenhower, Stevenson, and Romeo, probably the three teams that'll be in the mix for that top spot in the MAC Red. All home games for the Cougars, and that Orchard Lake St. Mary's game to start the season will also be played on their home turf. If they can win that game in week 1, wow, look out, they might be on to something really good this season.
Yeah, well, we anticipate that they're going to have a fine season. They always seem to do that. But let's jump ahead now. The next team in our preview is going to be the Chippewa Valley Big Reds. Coach Scott Merchant has lost a lot of key players heading into the new season, but with the speed and skill on defense, it should help them be in the mix.
We had a good off season. We lost 38 seniors, so it's the most I've ever coached, and we got a lot of holes to fill. We only have 2 starters back on both sides of the ball, so we got a lot of work to do. This is probably one of the more challenging years as coaches because we have so many new kids that are going to have to be assuming new spots. We really have to do a great job right now trying to find the right pieces to put in the right spots and then get the 11 right guys on the field together. So our kids have worked really hard. We've had great numbers in the off-season workouts, so I applaud their efforts. Now it's just, you know, a matter of time growing up because we don't have a lot of guys that have played a varsity football game. Even our seniors that are coming back, you know, most of them didn't get playing time last year with such a strong class. So we got 70 kids on the team, which is great, and you know, I think the program's in good shape.
Step, rip, through, and you come up here.
Overall, I think every team's goals are probably similar. We want to win, you know, we want to win our conference, and we want to beat our rivals. We want to make the playoffs, and then ultimately you want to win a state championship. But, you know, each team has to have, you know, different short-term goals too. For this team, it's going to be a little different. I mean, you know, we have so many young guys. Those are still our overall goals, but to get there, we have to really take it day by day, and not to be cliche, but we have to get better every single day. And if we continue to do that, then, you know, I think by the end of the year, we're going to be a really good football team, regardless of how many sophomores and juniors we have playing. But they know the expectation, they know the tradition, you know, they know what's going on. So that's there. We got a lot of really good juniors and 3 sophomores up with us right now, and that's been a great boost to us. And we have a really good freshman class too. So we feel really good about, you know, the future of the program.
Good spot for it. There we go. Good.
Maurice McBride started every game a receiver for us. We expect him to be our top receiver, and we expect he might play some secondary for us too. Ryan Muller he'll be our only 3-year starter. He's going to start at defensive end. We expect him to anchor that defensive line for us. Cardell Snorton is a junior. He was our only sophomore last year who started. He's going to be a 2-way guy for us. He's going to start at corner, which he started at last year, and then he's going to play some in our slot receiver position. And he's had a really good summer. And then, you know, we have a couple other guys who played a little bit, but our other full-time guys, Darian Greeley. And Darian was our leading rusher, had about 700 yards after he took over the position last year. He's actually going to be starting at strong safety on defense. He's one of the toughest kids on our team, pound for pound. And then we have 3 senior running backs, so there'll probably be a little bit more by committee in the backfield back there. So if we have one position that we have experience at, it's running back.
We got a lot of skilled guys, you know. I feel like we got more skilled guys than last year. We got a lot of places, you know, people we can replace, and, you know, if somebody get hurt, we can put somebody in. So, you know, we looking real good, and, you know, I can't wait till the season starts.
I feel like this year we're going to have a pretty good year. Even though we lost a lot of seniors, we still got a lot of younger guys stepping up. That's why we have our motto, is step up for younger guys to fill in the positions that needs to be filled. Just keep it one game at a time. Just focus on that game that's up that week and carry on from there.
I think we're going to be fast on defense. I think our team speed is good on defense. Offensively, same thing. We have good skill kids. We're just inexperienced. So, you kind of wonder what's going to happen when the lights come on that first Thursday night down at Wayne State. Hopefully, if we do a good job preparing them and we're hard on them in practice, then, it's really no different in the game and they're prepared. But this is, I think, the most brutal the Reds ever been. When you add ROMEO to what was already, 5 playoff teams, I think every week, and again, like I know people use these cliches, but in the Red, it really holds true. You can be a good football team and go 4-5, and you can lose, 4 tough divisional games. So that's why week 1 is so important. We got a tough game against Lake Orion. We need to get some confidence and get off on the right foot. But our conference is so tough. I mean, you look at every team. Dakota probably has the most kids back, so they're probably the favorite. They're the 4-time defending champ, so they deserve to be. Eisenhower has a lot of kids back, and they really got better as their team went last year. MOTT has a lot of good kids back. ROMEO has a tremendous program and pride, so even though they lost a lot of great players, they're going to be good. And STEVENSON, Kevin's done a great job there. They lost some key guys, but their program's in good shape too. So there's no week that you can look to and say, well, you know what, we don't need to show up and play our best this week. It's going to be difficult. I really think it's up for grabs. There's a lot of new kids playing. There's a lot of young quarterbacks playing. So A, whoever stays healthy, and then B, whoever is going to kind of win those close games and make those plays at those key times, But, it's a new team. It's a new challenge. And we just have to be patient, and we have to go a little bit slower and let these guys grow up. And they've done everything we've asked them to do at this point, so we just need to kind of get some game experience and see where we go from there.
All right, Brad, Chippewa Valley, last year was my pick, and they lost a lot of players. They still have some guys coming back, as you heard, but I think they're going to take a little step back, but those playmakers still on defense still might make them a formidable foe.
Yeah, there always seem to be the wild card in the MAC, Red. You're not ever really sure what you're going to get out of Chippewa Valley, and don't forget they really went toe-to-toe with Dakota last season, a game that spanned 2 days, and it was a heartbreaking loss for Chippewa Valley, and that maybe kind of took a little bit of wind out of their sails, but they should be back and should be pretty good once again this year. Yeah,
they faltered towards the end, and I think that was the thing, is then once they got into the district round, that tough loss against Eisenhower, the way that season ended was definitely a heartbreak. But let's look at their schedule this year. They open up with Lake Orion once again on the campus of Wayne State on August 25th, followed by a road game at ROMEO, then back home against Warren Cousino on the 9th of September. Road game against Eisenhower on the 16th, Warren MOTT then at home. UTICA crossover game on September 30th. And then they got the 2 home games in that big rivalry game again, Dakota on October 7th. Followed by STEVENSON, and then they finish up with a road game crossover against Anchor Bay. So, when you look at their schedule, Brad, obviously those Red games are there, but when you look at the crossovers, they played Lake Orion now. This will be the 3rd year in a row that they've played Lake Orion in the opener. Little familiarity there, I would guess.
Sure, and they're 2-0 against Lake Orion, and it's going to be a special game. It's going to be played on the campus of Wayne State University in the Prep Football Classic. A good opportunity to play at a Division II stadium. Hopefully they get some big crowds out there. But you also got to circle that game against Dakota. 2-17 in the last 19 games against the Cougars. Chippewa Valley's got to get the job done. They're in that big rivalry game late in the season.
And obviously the staff and faculty of Chippewa Valley Schools, I'm sure, is thrilled. That game used to be the first league game, which was often before school started. Now they've moved that game back, and it's towards the end of the year, which they'll get a lot of people out there. It'll be a packed house, and it'll be an exciting football game. Benefit for them, I think, looking at the schedule, Brad, is that last game, Anchor Bay. I think that's a very winnable game for Chippewa Valley. So if they're sitting there at 5 wins going into that final week, I think they can have a little bit of confidence knowing, let's go out and get the job done in that final week to get to that 6th win. But of course, they got to find some wins along the way too.
Sure, and there are 2 big MAC Red games at the end of the year. Dakota, Stevenson, both home games for Chippewa Valley as well. And don't forget, their 3 losses last season, Jason, were by a combined 21 points. So they were in close ball games and really just couldn't get over that hump to really have a special season last year.
Yeah, Chippewa Valley obviously going to look to continue the success under Merchant. They've gone to the postseason several years in a row now, and keeping that consistency, I know, is an important thing for Chippewa Valley. So, but we'll move on to our next team now in our preview, which is the Eisenhower Eagles. With a strong finish last season for them, they were able to make the postseason at 6-3 and beat Chippewa Valley in the opening round of districts. They look to keep things moving forward heading into a new season.
Hit, shoot him. Knock it out, good. Right.
We're replacing the whole offensive line, so we got to see where we're at on the offensive line. But I like what we got coming back. We got a lot of team speed. It's probably the most team speed we've had probably since 2011. So a lot of guys back on defense. So we're looking for good things, but really we just got to get better every day. And it's not going to be easy to replace 5 good offensive linemen that we had last year. I mean, we had a really great ending of the season last year and beat some really good teams right at the end there in those last 5 games. So, you're hoping there's some carryover and you're hoping that you're improving. So, we lost in the second round of the playoffs and we're hoping to do better.
I see a lot of potential on our defensive side of the ball. I think we still have some work to do with the offensive line. I think we have some beasts on the offensive line, but our D-line's really where it's at right now.
Stand, hit. See those hands working?
Who are some of the guys that you're looking on this year to play those big roles for you?
I think our quarterback, he's going to be a junior this year. He started every game last year, and he was with us as a freshman, Max Whitworth. And so, you're always looking for your quarterback, and it's always good to have your quarterback back. I mean, that's the biggest position. It's the hardest position to fill. So we got a guy with a lot of experience coming back, and that's huge. We're looking for big things out of him. The other guy is Jack Preventure. He's a 3-year starter, and he's going to be playing some tailback for us this year as well as on some defense. And we're looking for some good things out of him, but he's got a lot of experience. And and the other guys, Sammy Voltaggio and Noah Lumetta, are 2 defensive linemen that started every game last year for us and did really well towards the end of the season. And we're hoping those guys can really give us a push. It's tough every year. I mean, there's really what's happened in the last 5 years. Every team that's in the MAC, not just the MAC Red, MAC White, MAC Blue, all the way down. The coaching has gotten phenomenal. I mean, these guys at every level know what they're doing, and I think it has a lot to do with clinics, online stuff, being able to get to these colleges that open themselves up and coaches going down there. So the coaching in the MAC is phenomenal. And so the league has really gotten better, and every year it's tough. I mean, it doesn't matter who's on our schedule. It's a tough game. There's no cupcakes on anybody's schedule anymore. So we got to just prepare one game at a time, and try to compete in each of those games and try to get better. And wherever we end up, we end up.
We always have a tough schedule, usually every year, but like we did last year, we're going to take it a week at a time, and we're gonna try and hold ourselves more accountable after each loss. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does, we're going to be more accountable and we're going to bounce back even better.
I think the leadership on this team has been outstanding. We haven't picked any captains. I'm not sure we're going to pick some captains because we got a lot of guys that are true leaders, and they're finding their own roles into the team. So I always thought being a captain was a little bit overrated, and what you really need is really strong leaders, and I think we have strong leaders on this team, so I think that's going to be a big plus for us. Potential, you never know with the team. Look at ROMEO last year. Nobody was expecting them to do anything. They went on to win the state championship. So, potential is great, but I see a team that really likes to work right now, and great leaders and a lot of team speed. So, where we go from there, I have no idea, but it's going to be an exciting journey for us.
All right, Brad, Eisenhower, obviously coming off a year last season that they started really slow out of the gates, came on strong at the end of the year and got that postseason win to get to the district final, only to lose to Dakota. That really got some momentum going for them, and I'm sure they're going to try to carry some of that over this year.
Yeah, you mentioned it at the start of this segment, that they got hot at the right time, had to win those last 3 games of the regular season to qualify for the playoffs for the 16th straight time. That's important for Eisenhower. They got the job done, and they're hopefully carrying a little bit of that momentum into play this year.
Yeah, and you heard Coach Chris Smith, You know, they built an offensive line this year, brand new, 5 new players. You know, that can be a good thing. It could be a bad thing because you got a lot of inexperience there, and against a lot of these top teams out of the red that have pretty solid defensive lines, you know, that could cause fits for them this year.
Oh, absolutely. MAC Red plays dictated at the lines, right? You have to have a solid offense and defensive line, and that'll be important for Eisenhower as they go forward this year in order to compete with some of those bigger boys in the MAC Red.
Yeah, one thing to mention for Eisenhower, Coach Brad Morris, who used to be the offensive coordinator over at Dakota, now comes over to help at Eisenhower. I'm sure bringing a little bit of tidbits of what he knows of not only Dakota, but the teams that they play in the MAC Red. Obviously, that's going to maybe help them from the coaching aspect a little bit
Giving
as well.
away some of those secrets.
Maybe.
Well, Dakota's won 6 straight in that series, so something's got to change, right?
Maybe he'll be able to add a little bit and allow Eisenhower to maybe get an upset win in what would be an upset in that game. But let's take a look at their schedule. They open up with 3 road games, which will be incredibly tough. At Plymouth on the 26th of August. Then they have the Dakota game in week 2 on September 1st at Roseville on the 9th. And then they have Chippewa Valley and Romeo at home, followed by 2 more road games, Creuse North and Stevenson. And then the tail end of October, they got the 2 home games against Warren Mott, and then they finish up with Utica Ford. So, you know, the way that their schedule lays out, you know, unlike a lot of other teams where they go home and away and home and away, you know, it's chunks. They got the 3 on the road to start things off, then they got 2 at home, then 2 on the road, and then they close out with 2 more at home. So pretty hard to keep some continuity going with a schedule like that, I would guess.
Sure, absolutely. You mentioned the 3 road games to start the season. A Plymouth team that's pretty good. Eisenhower took care of business last year, winning by 2 touchdowns against them. And don't forget, Eisenhower was the one team that was able to beat Romeo last year. The lone Bulldog loss was to Ike last year, so Romeo looked for a little bit of revenge there. We'll see if Eisenhower can make it 2 straight over Romeo this year.
Yeah, keep in mind that is a rivalry game for them. Those 2 teams love playing each other, and that's the variable that a lot of people don't recognize. Is it doesn't matter who the favorite is when you have a rivalry game like that. You can throw everything out the window, not to be cliche, but that's the case. Eisenhower, the same situation. They play a white team off in their last game of the year. Utica Ford is going to be one of those teams, I think, that's going to challenge for the white, so that's not going to be a cupcake game. And if they're sitting there at 5 wins, again, same situation for them, needing a 6th. That's going to be a tough one at the end of the year.
Yeah, Utica Ford made the playoffs last year. We saw them in action against Dakota in the first round of the playoffs, and they were able to hang around with the Cougars for a period of time in that ball game. That should be a tough one for Eisenhower to end the season, and hopefully for them, they don't have to win those 3 straight in order to get in again this year.
Yeah, and we're about to get into Creuse North, but just to touch on it real quick, Creuse North playing up in the red the last 2 seasons. Their lone win was against Eisenhower, but they nearly got a 2nd win against Ike last year as well. So in their 2 years out of the red, their 2 wins could have been against Eisenhower. So that obviously, that's going to be a competitive game as well. So that no real easy games on their schedule. They're going to have to earn it if they're going to make the postseason once again. All right, well, we'll now go on to our next team, which is the Creuse North Crusaders. They dropped down from the red to the white after only 1 win in league play in the past 2 seasons. With some talent on the defensive side of the ball and some playmakers, LCN will be one of the favorites to challenge for the MAC White title.
You know, I like our team. Our team is coming together during camp, and we're really fast this year. We got a lot of explosive players. On defense, we're going to have a really good, tough defense. Our defensive line is pretty tough and pretty quick. I'm really excited about the year. We got some smart players, too.
Go! Hit it! Go, go, go!
You know, it was a great 2 years being up in the red. You really learn to win up there. You take your lumps, but you also learn a lot of good stuff from what those programs do. And coming down to the white, it's still going to be a tough white division. You got Grosse Pointe South, Utica Ford, Utica, FRASER, and Anchor Bay. It's going to be really tough games. It's going to be the best white I've seen in a long time. So really excited about it. I'm excited to play those guys, and we haven't played a lot of them, so they get to see our fast offense and our cool defense.
You have to just keep going every day by day, and you never know what's going to happen because the white's not just easy. It's not going to be easy for us. We're going to have to continue to work hard just like we did in the red.
Go!
Brendan Jackson's been with us for 2 years now. This is his 3rd year starting on varsity. He's our leader on defense. Plays middle linebacker, really good kid, really good talent. And then we got Jalen Allen, who's going to be our running back and our outside backer for us. Fills that role last year that was voided from my track leaving. And then we got Blake Daniels playing at quarterback. And our offensive line is going to be pretty good this year. We're pretty big, and that's been the first time since I've been here, so we're really excited about it.
This team, we're pretty young, but I think we're going to get the job done. You know, we got a big team, pretty fast and tempoed, so I think we're going to do a good job this year.
You know, our linebacking core is really good. Our defensive line is really, really fast, and our O-line are big. And we can throw the ball around a little bit. And I think it's going to be a really exciting year for offensively and defensively for us. So I think interior, we're really strong this year, and that's a huge plus for us.
We just want to win the white, win as many football games as possible. Our big goal is to win a state championship, but right now we're focusing on winning the white.
We talk about playing fast, playing hard, playing physical, you know, and how we've built it is really a ground-up level and really taught the kids how to play football. You know, I actually just got a call yesterday. One of the kids went on to college and said, "Hey, Coach, you guys practice just like our team." And it's kind of a nice thing. So it's really showing the kids how to practice, how to prepare, and you know, then on Friday nights it's their game. You know, the ceiling is way up there, really high. But, you know, week 1, week 2, you just got to go out week 1 and get that first W, and then you can go on and go on. I mean, the ceiling's super high, but, you know, on paper it looks great, but you never know. You just got to go out and play.
All right, Brad, LCN drops down to the white this year. I think that's a great move for them, looking at their team and how they finished the last couple of years. You know, 4-5 season a year ago, and no wins out of the red. So that shows you right there that they're winning their games in the non-league, just unable to get one within the league, and now dropping down to the white. Not that they're going to be easy games, but I think what's going to happen is on paper they're more winnable games, possibly allowing them to get to that 6-win total.
Yeah, they really got beat up in the MAC Red and really took their lumps. We're competitive in year 1, not so much last year. I think they took maybe a little bit of a step back, but a much more comfortable and good fit in the MAC White.
Yeah, let's take a look at their schedule right now if we could. August 25th, they open up on the road at WATERFORD MOTT, followed by another road game against league opponent Utica Ford. Home against Anchor Bay on the 9th of September, then followed by road game against FRASER. And then they've got Creuse at home, followed by a crossover against Eisenhower at home on September 30th. Road game against Utica, followed by the last 2 games of the year, which will be at home at the end of October against Grosse Pointe South and then Dakota. And Brad, when you look at their schedule right off the bat, the things that really stand out is their first game and their last game, because WATERFORD MOTT should be a tough matchup for them on the road. And then you look at that last game of the year is Dakota. Again, if you're sitting there at 5 wins, you might want to get to 6 wins before going into that final game, because they've had 0 success against Dakota over the years.
Let's examine WATERFORD MOTT for a second. It's always kind of hard to decipher what you're going to get out of an OAA team. We obviously don't get to see them much, but this is a WATERFORD MOTT team that's made the playoffs the last 2 years. And Jason, they averaged over 30 points per game offensively last year. That's going to be a tough one to start on the road for LCN. And then you mentioned that Dakota game. It's going to be tough once again for LCN to get to those 6 wins. Will they qualify for the playoffs with 5 wins? It's going to be tough. Thankfully for them, their schedule, 5 games against teams that had 500 records or below last season. So some winnable games in their schedule. They just have to win them all in order to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think if you look at it, you know, like I said, they've had the success in the non-league games. But now you look at this schedule, they got 2 crossover against red teams. Eisenhower, a team they've had success against the last 2 years, nearly beat them, like I mentioned before in the program last season. Dakota's going to be tough. They have, you know, they had a close game with them up until about halftime last year.
Sure.
And then, you know, a fumble at the goal line changed that whole game around, and Dakota ended up blowing them out in the second half. But you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket and say we have to beat Dakota to get to 6 wins. When you look at it, their first 2 games are going to be key. If they could somehow find a way to beat a WATERFORD MOTT team, that would be huge, because then Utica Ford, I think, is that other team in the MAC White that is going to challenge for the league title. It's going to be a contender in the MAC White. I think it really comes down to 3-team race in the White, which would be Creuse North, Utica Ford, and Grosse Pointe South. You know, flip a coin in those games. But if you could find a way to somehow be 2-0 coming home, now you're looking at Anchor Bay, FRASER, Creuse, and those are 3 winnable games for them. And then, you know, you could be looking at Eisenhower. If things start rolling for them, you could be looking at a 5-0 start against Eisenhower. So, you know, I think for them, they just have to, you know, again, take it week by week, but start off strong against WATERFORD MOTT. And Coach Kinner mentioned that himself, that they need to start off strong.
Yeah, you get to that 5-0 record going into that Eisenhower game, all of a sudden you're kind of playing with some house money and you're playing with some confidence. You never know. That game could be a little bit of an upset city for Creuse North if they're able to beat Eisenhower, but really some struggles against those 2 crossover teams in the MAC Red. LCN 2-16 all time against Ike and Dakota. It's going to be tough once again for them to win those 2 crossover games.
No doubt, no doubt. But they should have more success in the white, and that's why I said I do like that move, them dropping down from the red to white. I think it's going to give them more opportunities to make the postseason, which is really what you want to do, is just get into the playoffs and keep that program moving forward. So we come to the part of the program now, Brad, which is fun for us, is the predictions.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
Let's talk about this. I think we both agreed Dakota in the MAC Red is probably the favorite. They bring the most players back. They've had the most success over the past several years. The coaching change doesn't mean anything as far as what the success of that team is gonna have this year. I think we can agree on that they're probably gonna win the Red. So give me a team right now out of the MAC Red you think might be the sleeper or might come up and bite Dakota if they were.
Well, for whatever reason, it always seems like Warren Mott kind of gets overlooked in the MAC Red, and they don't have a lot of playoff success because they're always lumped in with the Cass Tech bracket. And this is a team that's made the playoffs 9 out of 10 seasons. Were able to beat Dakota last year, and they have a quarterback in Mike Pound. He's a senior. He's an explosive dual threat guy, and I wouldn't sleep too much on Warren Mott this year.
Yeah, no, Warren Mott does have a track record of being that team that no one talks about and maybe underestimates a little bit, and then they come up and they have some big wins throughout the year. I'm going to go with Eisenhower. Okay. I think Eisenhower, is a team that, last year, as I mentioned, they start slow and then they come on strong. I think a lot of that experience that comes back in a lot of those key spots is going to help them. And, the offensive line thing scares me a little bit as far as what they're going to be able to do to run the ball. But if they can get good, solid play out of that offensive line, and they got a lot of those defensive players coming back, I think Eisenhower could be a team that could shock some people this year. Last year I picked Chippewa Valley, and that didn't work out too well. They faltered down the stretch. But I think I'll go with Eisenhower as my sleeper team.
Very good.
And anything else out of the white, Brad?
Well,
who are you picking out of the white?
For the white, obviously Utica Ford. I thought they were really good in that game against Dakota in week 1 of the playoffs, ultimately falling short. Going to be contenders once again. But LCN, having played that MAC Red schedule the last 2 years, they know what it's like to play the big boys. They make that move down to the MAC White and should be really competitive. And probably are the favorites to win the MAC White.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump on that bandwagon as well and put the pressure on Coach Kinner and his group that I think LCN will be the team to win the white. I think you said it to a T right there, the experience level.
Sure.
And he mentioned it in the package that we watched. You learn to take your lumps. When you take on the best competition, you learn what it takes to win. You learn what it takes, how to take a loss in that aspect of playing those good teams. You learn from the mistakes to hopefully get over the hump and win those games. Now that should help them moving forward against a lot of these teams in their league.
Right, and you learn from what the other teams in your league are doing. And I think Coach Kinner mentioned, one of his former players mentioning, that their practices are very similar to what he's experiencing in college. It's a good coaching staff over at LCN, and they'll have them ready to play.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you for joining us for the football preview show this year. If you've missed any part of it, you can find the playback times or watch the program in its entirety on the Macomb Township website at www.macomb-mi.gov. Thank you to all the coaches and players who allowed us to visit them again this year, and we wish them luck. For Brad Fetters and the rest of the MTGA staff, we thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. So long.